All right, it's Saturday night. That means it's time to run it back. We're the Peach Basket. We're more than just a website. We really endeavor to be a community for like-minded, passionate basketball fans looking to make the world a better place through hoop, because why not? We really are just a group of fans that enjoy talking basketball. This is the best part of the day because I get to do that with you, and I get to do that with Isaac, who is going to join me a little earlier than he normally would. Matter of fact, he's going to join me right now. And the reason that is because last week we were off. I was actually at the Clippers game, which was great. It was a very interesting experience to be at that game. So we didn't do a show. And I'll be real frank and real honest with all y'all who happen to be watching. Doing all of those videos and all that takes a ton of work. We joke a little bit about the crack graphics department, which is me. Takes some time, and sometimes the videos just end up being choppy, and it's kind of been rough. So we're going to try and table that for just a minute, see if we can't find a better way to do it. And we're really going to emphasize the team recaps today. Listen, this NBA season is winding down. It's getting down to the important part of where teams are lobbying for position. Let's talk about that. I mean, that's the most exciting part of what's happening in the NBA right now. So it's just Isaac and I today from our partner site, flteams.com. Everything you need to know about the Florida teams is at flteams.com. Definitely go there if you get a chance. Or even if you don't, find a way. Find time to go to flteams.com. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to, and you see the recap right here. We're going to talk Clippers. We're going to talk Heat. We're going to talk Lakers. I'm going to start by doing the best I can in recapping the Clippers week. I try to be agnostic in terms of, being a fan, but I am in the LA area. These are the teams I follow. These are the teams I know, they being the Clippers and the Lakers. So let's start with the Clippers. We got 3 recaps from 3 potential playoff teams. The Clippers had a 2-1 week. They're currently sitting number 3 in the West. Going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. Serge Ibaka remains out. And it'll be very interesting when he gets back because DeMarcus Cousins, who we'll also talk a little bit about, has been playing great. And if Serge comes back, who remember he was a starter when he exited, when he got hurt. And so now Ibaka is in. DeMarcus Cousins is playing well. And then you're still going to have Serge Ibaka coming back. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Clippers play those 3 guys who have proven to be very, very, very quality, proven to provide real quality minutes for this team. I'm going to answer just a couple questions here, and then we're going to get news. Number 1, their best case scenario. There's no doubt about it. The Clippers have come out and said this is a championship or bust team. It was the same last year. They fell short of it, which leads me to the worst case. The worst possible thing that can happen to the Clippers is what happened to them last season and what happened to them in 2015. That is, they get tantalizingly close and they fail. Over the last, they've been phenomenal, right? They've been a great regular season team. But over the course of his existence, they've terrible. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They reached the Western Conference Finals. They've never gotten close. I mean, that's not fair. I mean, they were literally 1 game away, but in all of the first to the Rockets in 2015 and to the they were going to get over. You knew when they were up 3-1, they were going to 3. It's a long time. I was talking to Bruce Kerr, subscribe to any of that, but it's impossible for this team and how borderline cursed they are. And the only way you pass that is to just get past it, right? This is a championship or button. They've got to get past it. It is to them last season happened this season. I don't even know. I can't even begin to think of what would happen. It's going to be really bad. News, mentioned DeMarcus Cousins. He's been playing really, really well. He's a big guy. He's definitely slower. He doesn't have the hops he used to. But surprisingly, he's shooting over 40% from three. He's getting rebounds, and he's giving you that kind of that edge, that Zubac just doesn't give you. He has been a really good pickup for the Clippers. I put for the second bullet, I put an interesting little bit here. Clippers culture is one of a kind. I just talked about how the Clippers have been historically bad. Not over, the last 10 years in the regular season. They've been pretty good. They've been really good. But historically, the franchise in the playoffs has just been bad, and that counts the last 10 years. But there was an article written that talked about the Clippers culture and how things are changing and they're better. Clippers from top, of players, and, fans and others talk about how the culture is different on, say, San Antonio Spurs or the Los Angeles Lakers. The Clippers were always a team you wanted to leave, not necessarily a team you wanted to join. And it's exciting to see for that franchise and for that fan base that things are changing for them. Isaac, I saw you dropped. I'm going to bring you back. All right. The Clippers finish. They've got a game tomorrow. Aside from that, they're on the road. I think tomorrow is the Knicks, if I'm not mistaken. Then they're on the road against the Raptors, the Hornets, the Rockets, and the Thunder. Not a particularly difficult schedule. The expectation would be that they win certainly most of those games, if not all of them, as they prepare for the playoffs. And they will be in the playoffs, not the play-in. The Clippers are the only team right now that can say that pretty definitively out of the ones that we're covering. So that's my Clipper update. They had a good week as they prepare for the playoffs, not the play-in. With that, I'm going to stay on and I'm going to jump over. We're going to drop the pin in the general vicinity of Miami and talk about the Heat. Again, this is Isaac. He is our partner with FLTeams.com. This update comes from them. Make sure you go to FLTeams.com. Isaac, how did the Heat do this week?
Thanks for the introduction, Jose. So, look, Heat 3-1 a week. Again, we go from Saturday to tonight, which is Saturday. So, look, last Saturday, the Heat beat the Cavs 124-107. They played the next day against the Hornets on Sunday, May 2nd. The Heat won again 121-111. And on Tuesday, May 4th, the Heat played the Mavericks. No Jimmy Butler, meaning the Heat would probably lose. And they did. They lost to the Mavericks 127-113. And then last night, which was Friday night, the Heat beat the Timberwolves 121-112. So like I said, a 3-1 week for the Heat. Look, very inconsistent team. Hopefully that changes. Only a few games left, but good week, 3-1. And some good signs, obviously, as you guys can see on the screen. The Heat have Tyler Hero and Goran Dragic back in the lineup. They are back healthy. And Tyler Hero, in his return, had 27 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, shooting 76% from the field, 6 of 8 from downtown in the game against the Timberwolves last night. So that's what you need to see. Right? Yeah, that's what you need to see out of Tyler Hero, a guy that the Heat could have traded for James Harden. Obviously, not a one-for-one swap, but you know what I mean. He would be the big piece that the Nets would be getting. The Heat decided to keep him as, a lot of teams want Hero. To be honest with you, I guess every team, including the Heat, think Hero is more of a wait-on guy, right? Hasn't really shown a lot yet, but he did last playoffs, right? And hopefully he does that again in the next few games. So, look, let's focus on, the playoffs because they're coming up. The Heat, still without Victor Oladipo. That's the Heat's only injury as of now. He's going to come, back. Maybe the last game of the season, start of the playoffs, but he'll be there for the playoffs. But again, the Heat trying to avoid that play-in tournament as of now at the 6th seed. the 7 seed, which would be in the play-in tournament. The 7 seed are the Celtics, and the Heat play the Celtics tomorrow night. That's a huge game, as you guys can see on the screen. Heat and Celtics will be by far the biggest Heat game of the season. I'm going to make a case, potentially the biggest NBA game of the season. Because I know, the Hornets are fighting for that 8 spot. But again, they're going to make the play-in tournament. So there's a lot of games that mean a lot for the playoff seedings, right? But I think this is a huge one because Heat and Celtics, 6 and 7 seed. Again, the 7 seed makes the play-in tournament. And that's the worst case scenario for the Heat making the play-in tournament. And the best case scenario, of course, winning the NBA Finals. We know that the Heat, are top of the top each season, whether they come in as an 8 seed, 7 seed, a 6 seed, right? They can make it far. They have a good coaching staff. And, of course, leaders on the team, right? And especially this year. The Heat obviously lost Jay Crowder, Derrick Jones Jr., and other players, but they have Trevor Ariza. That's a guy that he's been on tons of teams. He knows what he's doing. Dwayne Dedman. And, of course, Oladipo. So the Heat, look, they've struggled this season a lot. Obviously, way more than last year. But I feel like with their pieces, they can do good. And, again, Tyler Hero's supposed to be more experienced. So let's see. But, again, I think what we should get out of this, the last 2 games, the last week for the Heat. Again, this is a week in review. So, the biggest takeaway from this last week is that the Heat are winning games. I think that's most important.
Right.
And hopefully that continues. Again, big game, Heat and Celtics on national TV tomorrow night. They actually play them again on Tuesday night. So it's really, really, really crucial to win those 2 games. And we'll see, how the rest goes for the Heat. But the playoffs should be exciting.
Who's winning Tuesday? Call it now.
I'll go with the Heat.
Okay. All right. Is that in Miami?
Yeah. Tuesday night's game is in Miami.
Okay.
And no, my bad. Both games. I assume that because tomorrow night's game was in Boston. The Tuesday night one would be in Miami, but no. So the Heat do have a day off that they can stay in Boston. Like I said, these injuries are happening because of the travel, right? The Heat are playing so many games, and of course, other teams can't just focus on the Heat. But at least the Heat get to stay put in Boston.
Yeah. All right. No, that's this is always a fun time of year because you have these matchups that matter right now. So it's like the playoffs start early. That will be a playoff game. Nobody wants to be in the play-in. Nobody wants to drop into the play-in, right? If you're in the 10th spot or the 11th spot, man, you want to get in there. Teams like Sacramento, San Antonio on the West. In the East, it'd be with the Chicago Bulls, the Indiana Pacers. They want to get in the playoffs because it's all they got in the play-in, rather. But nobody wants to drop down to that level, and I get that. There was one other bullet, and I was real excited to talk about it. Udonis Haslem is going to get some time.
Yeah, absolutely. The veteran, right? A lot of people know him as the bench warmer, but believe me, many years ago, he was a star on the Heat. He played a lot of minutes, and he was a big man getting tons of rebounds. Now he's a coach, except he's probably getting a little bit more money than a coach. I can't confirm that, but definitely more than an assistant coach. He doesn't play, but he's so important. I'm going to call him the most important bench warmer in the NBA, especially, teaching Bam Adebayo. I think that's a big part of Bam Adebayo's success. Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, and other players. And, he's expecting to play some minutes. Hasn't played 1 minute this season, but hopefully the Heat can get big leads in these upcoming games. Again, the Heat are going to play hard. They want to miss out on that play-in tournament. Missing out is a good thing for the Heat because they'd make the playoffs. A team like the Sacramento Kings missing out on the play-in tournament means they don't make the playoffs. But for the Heat, they want to play hard in these next few games and play hard to get UD some minutes. I think that's a big reason to play hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch. I'm excited to see him. I haven't seen him on the court for a while. Outstanding. I appreciate the Heat update. Let's jump back across the country. Where's my mouse? I have too many screens open. And we're going to drop the pin back in and around the area of LA, and we're going to talk Lakers. The Lakers are interesting. Came in with big expectations. Obviously, they are the defending champions. They have arguably two of the top 3 players in all of the association. And they got off to a great start. I mean, they were playing amazingly well. And then, Isaac, you brought up injuries. Injuries bit them. And ever since that, and I think it was a couple of things. Certainly the injuries mattered. But there was some drama in Lakers Twitter with somebody who catfished not the team necessarily, but catfished Lakers Twitter, and obviously it had nothing to do with the play of the team. But ever since that catfish thing happened, things changed. It's really strange, and Lakers started getting hurt. They started losing games that they should have won, or at least could have won, and it's been a rough road for them. This week they were 1-3. They have dropped now to the 7th spot in the West, which obviously is not good. They are in the play-in tournament as of right now, as are the Boston Celtics in the East, which is just, to me, pretty shocking. Nobody would have thought that. I think if you would have bet money that the Lakers, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to end there, but that's where they are now. That the Celtics and the Lakers would both be in the playoff tournament or the play-in tournament with a week or so left in the season, you would have made some money. Nobody expected that to happen. Now listen, all things being said, they are still the Lakers. They still employ LeBron James. They still have AD, who had a phenomenal game recently. Best game he's had since he came back against the Blazers. So their upside is absolutely still a world championship. It's just going to take a lot more work to get there. A lot is being made in LA about how they would be a team that won the world championship and then failed to make the playoffs, because the play-in tournament is not necessarily the playoffs. You've got to play in to get to the playoffs, right? So, I mean, it's rough. Now, if they win the play-in tournament, they're in the playoffs. So it's kind of a moot point, but it's interesting, and it's upsetting some Laker fans. LeBron is still out. Dennis Schroeder is out. I checked before I came on here. Kyle Kuzma, Talen Horton-Tucker, Alex Caruso, all questionable for tomorrow. And there's some talk now that they're not necessarily conceding or looking to tank, but I think they understand, the 7th spot is probably where they're going to land, and they want to get there healthy. Lakers just want to be healthy. They know when they're healthy, they can beat anybody. If they get LeBron and they get AD and they get everybody back, it doesn't matter, man, where they land, 7, 8.
So I have a question for you.
Hit me.
If you were the coach of the Lakers, Frank Vogel, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you do that? Do you just you consider that, even if we play these questionable players such as Caruso, THC, right, Kuzma, we're still going to make the play-in tournament. Do you rest them? Yeah,
I tell you that I do. I think, having coached teams, health is probably the most important thing. I mean, there's talent, of course, height, but you got to be healthy, man. If you're not playing at your best, you've got no chance, right? And so the thing is, any coach thinks that all 15 of his players, any combination of those 5, can be out there and compete. I guarantee you, a coach Pop in San Antonio believes that. He doesn't necessarily even care. He knows that certain players are more talented than others, but there's a system in place. You follow this system, you compete, you go after those loose balls. We're going to win games. These guys are professionals. So I absolutely agree with that methodology. You've got to make sure that Kuzma is healthy, because you're going to need him. THT has been a valuable piece off the bench. Caruso, of course, LeBron James, and Dennis Schroeder. So, there's no danger of the Lakers necessarily. I mean, it could happen, but it's not going to, where they fall out of the playoff down to the 11th spot. It's not going to happen. So right now, the number one focus for the Lakers has got to be to get healthy. So put healthy players out there. Doesn't matter who they are. If they win a game or two, great. If they drop 7 or 8, it doesn't really. 7 and 8, they play each other, so it doesn't really matter. all that much in this weird season. So long answer to your short question. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the right thing to do. The World Championship is definitely the best case. The worst case for them is this play-in tournament, which looks very likely for them. But interestingly, they could have the worst case and the best case. So, because they could go into the play-in tournament and still win the championship. So
Yeah,
realistically, the worst case for them is to be in that play-in and not get out of it, which I'll tell you something, and we're going to talk a little bit about it in a minute, is possible for this team. Some news, Anthony Davis, again, is back. He had 36 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block. He played really good. Interestingly, having watched that game, it looked like he had another gear. Like he still looked a little winded out there. He can't play even better, which is frightening, but he looks to be back. The Lakers are going to hang banner number 17 on Wednesday this week against the Houston Rockets. They finished the season against the Knicks, the Rockets. That's the game where they hang the banner. The Pacers and the Pelicans. I think the hope for the Lakers is to maybe win 2 of those. Obviously, they want to win them all, but more importantly, they've got to get healthy. We know LeBron will not be back for the first game, which I believe is that one against the Knicks. He might be back for the Rockets. We'll see. I think he needs to be back before the play-in tournament starts, if there's any hope for them, because it's just going to take you a while to get back into the rhythm that you need to be in order to win basketball games in the NBA.
What's happening with Andre Drummond, man?
Oh man,
he's made a minimal impact.
Yeah.
Very, very, very surprised of that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't want to go into a big tirade, but I'm not a particularly big fan of him. And I'll tell you why. It's interesting because before we talked about the Clippers and how they're going to have a potential center issue, a logjam with Serge, DeMarcus, and Zubats. Well, the Lakers have got the same thing, right? They've got Marc Gasol, they've got Montrezl Harrell, and they've got Andre Drummond.
And Anthony Davis can play center too.
Oh, and he does, right? And you're absolutely right. And he does a lot of the times, even though he said he doesn't like to. And that's their best team. There is no doubt about it. When AD is at the 5, that's the best Lakers team you're going to get. But interesting about those 3 guys who play, the center position is Marc Gasol has been really great. He's a great playmaker, but he's a little slow. He's not who he was defensively. Whereas Andre Drummond is a big body, but he's been missing layups. He's deadly from 3 feet and under, and that's about it. That's all he gives you. And Trez is just undersized. He really was. The Denver Nuggets took advantage of him when he was with the Clippers last season. He can't guard talented big guys like Embiid or Jokic. So the Lakers have got a problem. They continue to start Drummond. It's a bit of an issue because he's just not playing well. Like you said, he's not making an impact. I mean, we're talking 4-point games. One game where he had 20 plus minutes and had 0 rebounds. This is a guy who made his money on rebounding, and he's not rebounding. So yeah, my thinking is they've got to start Gasol, and they've got to split minutes between Drummond and Trez, and right now they're not doing that.
So before we move on, just quickly, who's your starting 5 for the Lakers in the playoffs? Everyone's healthy.
Yeah, Gasol, LeBron, AD, and who cares? Probably KCP and Dennis Schroeder. Those would probably be it. But when you've got that front court, I mean, with AD and LeBron, it doesn't. You and I could start at the point.
And what's I want to make this clear. And what's so amazing about that? You have Caruso and Kuzma coming off the bench. And Drummond and Montrezl Harrell. That's amazing. Now,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I can guarantee there's a strong chance that all of those guys are healthy. I mean, considering they don't have any setbacks, obviously LeBron should be back. Caruso's. Yeah. I mean, they should all be there, and that's impressive. Now, Marc Gasol, I don't think he's better than Harrell and Drummond, but I think it's reasonable to start him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I say start, and I mean give him 10 minutes a half, 20 minutes. He's not the kind of guy who's going to give you 30 minutes. But when you've got somebody like Trez and you've got somebody like Drummond, you can do that, Yeah. So yeah, I mean, listen, the Lakers are going to be scary. The problem is, LeBron has said he'll never be 100% again, at his age. And there's a difference between being able to play and being healthy. Right now, nobody's fully healthy. There's stuff that's hurting. And it's going to be rough, man. It's going to be very interesting. I think if LeBron can get back and play 2 or 3 games before the play-in, that certainly increases the likelihood of a real run for the Lakers. But we'll see. We'll see. Let me pull this off, and we're going to talk about the play-in tournament. This is the one. All right. So here's the question for you, and I've got the schedule right now. If the season ended today, okay, and we'll do the East first because that's not necessarily my forte here, but we'll talk it. In the East right now, because these are some interesting games. Boston would play Charlotte right now for the 7th seed. Washington would play the Pacers for the 8th seed, because they've still got to beat whoever loses the Boston Hornets game. So let's start with this first. Right now, Boston versus the Charlotte Hornets. Whoever wins gets the 7th seed. Whoever loses plays for the 8th seed. Who beats who in a 1-game series between the Boston Celtics and the Charlotte Hornets?
I'd take the Hornets.
Are you serious? Over Boston?
It's 1 game, man, and the Celtics always underachieve.
Yeah, the Celtics have been up and down. I mean, but I can't see them losing a 1-game.
It's 1
series.
game, and to give you my opinion, the Hornets have been amazing. Miles Bridges.
Yeah. No, he's amazing. He's fun to watch.
Yeah. And LaMelo's back. So.
Well, Daniel will never talk to you again. That is an unbelievable prediction you just made.
No, as a Heat fan, I witnessed the Celtics, right? They can't close games out against Miami. But Tatum has these fantastic games.
Mm-hmm.
But in these big games, I don't see him show up as he should be. Okay. I hate to admit it. I will.
That would be interesting. All right, well, we're just going to go with your prediction here. So that would mean the Celtics are out. That would just be shocking. But okay, so we got the Hornets now.
What would they be at? They would be playing for the 8th seed then, right?
Yeah. So then, yeah. So, no, you're right. They're not out. You're right.
Yeah, they're not out. They're out.
The Hornets are the 7th. And now the Celtics play whoever wins between the Wizards and the Pacers. So who wins between the Wizards and the Pacers? Another good game.
I'd probably go with the Wizards.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. Oh, Bradley Beal hurt himself today. If he's out with a sprained ankle, he actually left the court. I haven't got any updates, so I don't know what's going on with him. But yeah, if there's no Bradley Beal, that changes things, right?
It definitely changes things. I may still take the Wizards because the Pacers are not good when Sabonis is not good.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, Karis LeVert, haven't seen a lot from him this season. But, I mean, the Pacers have never been impressive to me. I do want to point that out. It was really TJ Warren in the bubble. The Pacers don't really have a strength that you can't stop them.
Yeah, they don't have an all-star. I mean, they have all-stars, but they don't have
Sabonis
an all-world player.
Sabonis is not a true all-star.
Agreed. All right, so let's say Wizards, and so then Boston versus Washington for the 8th spot. Who wins that?
Let me go with Washington again.
Really? Okay, that would send shockwaves. Okay,
man. Hey,
so you've got
if Westbrook played like he is now at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I got you.
The Wizards should be a 5th seed.
Yeah, they had a rough start to the season. He's been amazing of late. All right, so if the season were to end today, you've got the Hornets coming in at 7 or earning the 7th, and the Washington Wizards at 8. Boston out. Outstanding. All right, let's take a look at the West. So right now, if the season ended today, the Lakers would play the Warriors, which would be unbelievable, right? LeBron versus Curry. I mean, the storylines there would be amazing.
Crazy.
That would be for the 7th seed, and then the Grizzlies against the Spurs. The young team against the veteran team, the Spurs. Really good storylines there. So you all want to take the West. I got to tell you, and I hope Laker Nation does not obliterate me, but I think in a 1-game series that the Warriors right now are healthier. Obviously, Clay is out and remains out, but Steph Curry has just been amazing. And they are smart enough, that team, to let Anthony Davis, get his 35 points, which he probably will, and stop everybody else. I mean, they are a championship team. And the Lakers obviously are coming off a championship, but they'd be hobbled. Now, I'm making that prediction assuming LeBron doesn't come back and is LeBron James. If LeBron comes back and he has 2-3 games before that play-in, the Lakers are going to win it. But without LeBron, or with LeBron at 50%, the Warriors, which is really the condition the Lakers are in right now, the Warriors beat the Lakers. Okay. I didn't shock you with that. That's interesting.
Well, let me say this. Either way, the Lakers and Golden State are making the playoffs. They're getting out of the play-in tournament. So 7, 8 seed, it doesn't matter, but Golden State getting the 7th or LA getting the 7th, it's going to happen. Either way, they're both making the playoffs. So whoever loses, they're going to get out of it. But I agree with you, though, because if LeBron's, 50%, right? Even if he does play, Curry plays every minute in the playoffs. You know what? In a play-in tournament game, because you want to make the playoffs. So he actually probably will play every minute.
Oh, absolutely.
Close to that.
Absolutely.
And in the playoffs, Curry is amazing. By the way, Klay Thompson may be back just in the second round, maybe. I'm just giving a wild guess. Thompson has a chance at getting back. And who says he's going to even get 30 points in a game? That's what he usually does. I wonder how Thompson is. Man, he's been away from the NBA for a long time.
The best you could hope for is maybe spot minutes just to kind of get his legs under him. But it would be such an emotional high to see him back. But let me get to the next game, because if the Lakers lose, they would play the winner of Memphis and San Antonio, which to me is a really interesting game. Ja Morant is amazing. And the Spurs have been incredibly resilient. They win games like this. That's just who they are. That's what they do. But I would take the Grizzlies to beat the Spurs, knocking them out. And then it would be Grizzlies versus the Lakers for that eighth spot. And I agree with you. Whether or not LeBron is back, I think the Lakers are going to win against the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies would be, in this playoff atmosphere against the defending champs, against the Los Angeles Lakers. They're going to learn a lot, but they're going to lose. It would be the Warriors and the Lakers coming in at 7 and 8 would be, my prediction. But the Lakers would limp into that eighth spot, which would just be, just really staggering. And then we could talk about how they would play the Jazz, which would be amazing.
Honestly, one of the best series. If the Lakers get that 7 seed, Suns and Lakers, right? That's Suns are the 2nd seed, right?
Yep.
Amazing series. Amazing.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a lot of really good basketball to be played after this play-in tournament thing. So let's end it with that. I'm going to go ahead and just start our goodbye music, but I do want to leave you or ask you this one question before we take off. And let's keep it, 1 or 2 word response. The play-in tournament, do you think it's worth it, or do you kind of not like it?
Worth it.
Yeah. I like that. I'm probably 51-49, worth it, but I have some problems with it. We'll leave it at that, because this theme song doesn't go on forever. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. For Isaac from FLTeams.com, I'm Jose with the Peach Basket. We are a site dedicated to fans like you, and we run it back every Saturday, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you.